I'm David Eaton. I'm one of the nurse practitioners at the Autism Center. It's nice to see everybody here in person. We also have our people doing live streaming at home via Blue Jeans, the Blue Jeans app. So we've kind of switched over from doing the specific locations like, Federal Way and Everett kind of sites and Spokane, and now kind of people can just watch it from home when they can't make it all the way here in person. But I'm so grateful everybody's here in person tonight. That's great. So welcome to our kind of last monthly Autism 200 series lecture of 2017. It's going to be a great one tonight. We have our long-awaited, over the course of the year, singing on our schedule, and we're finally here for our sibling panel, and it's going to be facilitated tonight by Tara Rudder. I'll introduce Tara in a second. Just want to make a few announcements, and then I'll be out of everybody's hair. No exit there, so if we have an emergency, don't go that way. Go those directions. Number two, with the remote sites, you should be able to kind of send questions. There's a chat function in your Blue Jeans app that you should be watching through. You can send questions throughout the kind of discussion tonight. And at the end, we'll be asking kind of folks in the audience here live questions. We'll have a microphone for taking around and answering questions. And then we'll also try and pull any from the live chat function in Blue Jeans if there are any from the people at home. We do have a kind of a structured setup tonight. Tara will explain that further. As a last kind of plug, we do have Autism 200 series continuing on into 2018. So we haven't finalized the full schedule. It's not out yet, but we have many topics. We'll start off the year with Autism 201, the state of autism in 2018. That'll be our fun, what we've done the last several years of Jim Mancini and Rafe Bernier, our clinic director, doing their newscast style production. It'll be live here in person, so come on in, check it out. Other topics during the year that we're still finalizing, but we're going to be doing girls and autism spectrum disorder, autism and inclusion. We'll have our summer series about understanding and maximizing services into adulthood. And then we're going to do a really exciting panel next year about what we're kind of calling bridging the divide in autism. And that's going to be a group of what we call what are identified as self-advocates, individuals with autism. That term can be used at times at least. So self-advocates and parents kind of having a discussion because there can be a divide in that between those groups or amongst those groups. We want to try and help kind of facilitate that discussion. So that'll be really great next year. Again, thanks for being here tonight. If you are asking questions in person or if you're submitting questions, make sure you know this is recorded. It gets out there on the internet eventually, so don't submit any kind of, or don't be asking kind of more personal information questions that you don't want out on the internet, because it will get there. Without further ado, here's Tara Rudder. I'm going to introduce her just briefly. Tara is a graduate research fellow and doctoral student in clinical psychology at Seattle Pacific University, SPU. She is currently working within the STAR lab. A lot of research labs have fun acronyms. So STAR stands for Study of Autism and Self-Regulation. You might have seen the folks out there with that flyer, as well as others from SPU. So she is working under the guidance of Dr. Bev Wilson. Her research interests include emotion recognition and regulation in young children with autism. She is very appropriate for this, leading this discussion tonight and moderating this panel. She has a brother, Evan, who is on the spectrum. Evan was diagnosed in 1994. He enjoys photography, video games, and tennis. He's recently completed 4 semesters of a media workshop learning about film movies in California. So again, she's a great person to be moderating tonight, and let's welcome Tara.
Thank you for having me. So, as David said, this topic is near and dear to my heart because I have this brother, Evan, on the spectrum. And Evan has influenced the way that I see the world. Being a sibling of someone on the spectrum has provided me unique experiences that I treasure. And truthfully, being a sibling hasn't always been easy. You may have heard the saying, if you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. And I believe this extends to siblings as well. Everyone has a unique story, and we want to respect and acknowledge that. And we appreciate the panelists who are willing to share their insight tonight. Since our panel will be sharing their stories, I thought I'd share a little bit of my own as well, so that way you understand my background a little bit better. Evan is my younger brother. He's about 3 years younger than me. He's had various diagnoses throughout the years. First, he was language delayed. Then he was diagnosed with PDD-NOS. Then he was diagnosed with autism. He only has internalizing symptoms. He's a highly anxious individual. He lives with my mom and dad. He's verbal. He loves to read Harry Potter books. But he doesn't understand more subtle emotions in other people. And he's often forgetful. He loves to daydream. He doesn't understand when I get bored in a conversation, and he can talk to me for hours about his favorite movies. He can cook himself a meal on the stove, but it needs to be supervised because he might forget to turn it off. Evan is thriving right now. He just finished an inclusion-based film workshop in California, learning how to operate video equipment, and he's even filmed a town hall meeting. He's kind, he's caring. He likes talking about video games with my husband, and he's definitely more social than his graduate student sister. Whenever I call him, he's off to go to a dance, or he's going off to play tennis or hang out with friends while I sit at the computer and study all day. So I want to now shift to let our panelists tell their own stories and their perspectives and introduce the people here tonight. Maria, sister of Danny. Kate, sister of Tucker. Chloe, sister of Daniel. Devin, brother of Amanda. And Rachel, sister of Jim. All the panelists have received explicit permission from their siblings and families to share their stories. So thank you again for being here and sharing with us. So we'll start out with our first question of the evening. Please tell us about yourself and tell us about your brother or sister with autism. So I will open it up to Maria first.
Testing. Okay. So my name is Maria Wickersham. My brother is Danny. So first, I guess about myself. I'm actually a former STAR Lab, you could say, intern under Dr. Bev Wilson. I did about a year of that. And I just graduated from Seattle Pacific University in June, actually. So I'm an alumni. Thank you. And earlier this year, I actually interned at the PBMU here at Children's Hospital as well. So enough about me, though. More about my brother now. So Danny, he is now 22. We're about 7 years apart. So are the pictures behind me? Oh yeah. He's very, very outgoing. Actually, very social. He was diagnosed around, I want to say, age 2. Because he was a little behind in his verbals and his speech, or lack thereof, I should say. And so, it kind of started out a little different. Now he's definitely more like the social butterfly in the room. He'll walk around, and talk to anyone and everyone and can talk literally about anything. He's obsessed with video games. He is obsessed with traffic lights. He's very knowledgeable. He can read anything and soak it up like a sponge, and he'll text me just about every day and call me every day, maybe 5 times a day, and let me know new information he's learned. And I definitely have screenshotted a lot of our text messages because they were really funny, and I might have to make a book out of it someday. So he's very, very unique. Like Tara was saying, when you've met someone with autism, you've only met one person. It's a very broad spectrum. He was diagnosed with ASD, PDD, NOS pretty young, but I've definitely noticed changes from when he was first diagnosed to his age 22 now. He actually, he works for the city, and he is a working man. He can make a mean grilled cheese, and he actually will do my dishes sometimes. It's pretty nice. So he's a really good brother. And that's a little bit about me and my brother, Dan.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Kate?
Awesome. My name is Kate Jack. I'm 24 years old, and I'm approaching my last quarter at Central Washington University. Just made it over the pass this afternoon. Very worth it. This is exciting. And I'm studying public relations. We grew up in Woodinville, Washington, around a lot of dogs and horses, and we even had chickens. And I've also got a younger brother named Will, who's neuronormal. And my older brother is Tucker. He's 25 years old. He's going to turn 26 in January. He's very boisterous. He's about 6 feet tall. His aide is actually like 6'9". I wish we have a photo of Jeremy. So yeah, there's Tucker with his soul patch. He's pretty cool. So he, if I were to sort of describe his personality, that is like a miracle, getting him to look into the camera like that. Usually for photos, he's sort of distracted, but very task-oriented for what he wants. And he's communicative when he needs something. He certainly knows how to verbalize that, but he does not go out of his way to engage with people. That's not his thing. He really sort of is in his own world. He really likes his Thomas the Tank Engine videotapes. He loves cars and trains and airplanes, and he'll rewind these videos and watch them again and watch a certain scene again and again, and he just has them memorized in his head. It's pretty amazing how he can recite them, and you know, one day he'll start singing a song that I haven't heard in 15 years or since our childhood, and that's just something that he retains, and he has this incredible memory, but socially really just likes to do his own thing. But if I've learned one thing, he is much happier with his sort of, I guess the psychological term, we'd call it a secure base. So like I read about a study once where a toddler was in a room playing, and there's a person conducting the interview and the mother, and they had the mother quietly leave the room, and the toddler just threw a fit, threw a tantrum, was really upset, took no consolation from the person conducting the interview. And then the mom came back in the room, and the baby, you know, greeted the mom and whatnot, and then just went back to playing with his toys. And so that, I guess they sort of used as an example that if you have your person there, you can better do what you would have done anyway, just knowing that they're there. So that's sort of Tucker's relationship. You know, you don't get a lot of affirmation verbally from him, but he certainly engages more, and I can tell he's happier when people are around him.
Thank you for sharing. Chloe?
So my name is Chloe Sable. I'm 10 years old, and my brother's name is Daniel. He's 12 years old, and so my brother Daniel, he's really he's kind of like a younger brother to me, even though I'm 10 and he's 12. So it's kind of like he'll throw a tantrum, and then it's like he'll just like do that, and then like 5 minutes later it'll like all of a sudden stop. So he's just like kind of, and so he goes to Timbercrest Middle School, and well, he really he's obsessed with Christmas trees. So whenever we put up a Christmas tree, he'll take it and just like push it to his room, and then he'll like start asking for Christmas lights, because we don't usually put up Christmas lights around him, because he'll just like start pulling them apart and just like playing with them. And it's really funny watching him do it, because he's just like trying to push it, but he can't push it, and it's really funny.
Thank you for sharing. Devin?
Hi, my name's Devin. I feel like I should be leaning in. My name's Devin. My sister's name is Amanda. She's really funny. She was diagnosed in 1991, I believe. Her verbal was also behind. A lot of movies growing up. There are only 3 movies, actually, that she watched that I know for watching over and over and over again. The Lost Boys, 1987. Anybody? Small Soldiers, 1998. Anybody? And the very popular Sailor Moon, franchise. Huge fan of that. So she would watch those over and over again. And I feel like there were certain scenes she would replay that she would kind of communicate with us with that video. So with those videos. So just kind of interesting. She's really talented. She's really funny. She's got a great sense of humor. She likes to say cuss words, which is inappropriate. But she loves to drop cuss words in public. And, and then she'll apologize immediately. She's a talented graphic artist. She likes to draw cartoons and characters. She'll incorporate characters from Small Soldiers. Anybody? She'll draw them with like elaborate costumes and dresses and stuff. She'll call me probably once a day, maybe twice a day, just to say what's up, check on me, make sure I'm okay. Yeah, she's really funny.
Awesome, thank you. Rachel?
My name is Rachel Bowler. I'm 28, and my brother is 29. I'm currently in the doctoral program, clinical psych with Tara as well in the same lab. And I've been here for like 2 years, so my family is back home in Buffalo. I have two brothers, one that's 3 years younger than me, and then Jim, who's a little bit over a year older than me. Jim was diagnosed with PDD on NOS when he was 11, but he was speech delayed, and because he's only a year older than me, we actually learned to talk and kind of met our milestones at the same time. He's currently working for the University of Buffalo in the dining services, and he's worked his way up from like washing dishes, and now he's a line cook. So he got his white jacket this summer and was very excited about it. And just generally, he loves the outdoors. His newest thing, we have pet birds, and his newest thing is bird watching outside. So he goes on hikes with my mom and takes pictures of birds. And I guess my mom said he's doing awesome, and the pictures look great. So he's very creative, all kinds of arts and crafts.
Thank you so much for sharing. Our next question is, what is your favorite memory of your childhood with your brother or sister? We'll start with Maria again.
There's so many. It's so hard to choose. My mom and I were actually discussing memories before I got here today too, and it like sparked a few that I had forgotten about. One of my favorite memories was we did a lot of imaginary play growing up. And so when I would be babysitting him, when my mom and his dad would go out, for the evening, we would do like skits for them for when they came home, and I'd always make him be the girl and I'd be the boss of something. Like Cinderella, he was Cinderella and I was the evil stepsister, so I'd make him clean, and that was a skit. And I'd actually, when I was an only child, I had prayed to have like a sibling, and then my mom ended up having my brother, but I had forgot to ask for a sister. So a lot of things I would do growing up besides those skits, I would actually dress him up as a girl and put makeup on him. And I do have pictures of it, and he gets very angry at me when I find those pictures sometimes. But besides that, we'd have, a lot of imaginary play, and I definitely will never forget my morning wake-up calls. Like I said, he was really interested in traffic lights and sirens, and so every morning I woke up to wee, 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 wee. Like every morning I would hear that at 5 in the morning or in the bathroom, And then he went through phases. So at one point it was traffic lights, at one point it was vacuums he was really interested in. So the memory I have is when I'd go to like my friends' houses and my mom would bring him when she would pick me up. I remember one time we were talking with the mom and we're like, oh, saying goodbye to my friend. And then all of a sudden we hear a vacuum go off in another part of the room in the house somewhere, and we find Danny who's vacuuming, and he's just really into it. So it's pretty funny. It's so hard to pick one. I'm sure I'll probably think of more as we go on here too, but those are my top memories for sure.
Wonderful.
I forgot to mention Tucker works at Triple Horn Brewery in Woodinville every Friday. Pretty cool job, but it's great because he goes in there and these guys are making beer, just cranking music, huge open space. It's pretty ideal because Tucker's always making noise. And favorite memories in childhood, we. Like I said, Tucker loves to make noise and project, and he also runs and jumps. Like, you have not seen calf muscles until you've seen my brother. It's absolutely insane because he's just been jumping his whole life. And, 6 feet tall, he weighs about 200 pounds, so it's, not just a light little bunny hop. He's quite the spectacle. So I had to get over that quickly. I know there were a few things when we were briefed on this discussion and sort of making our way through feeling emotions like embarrassment through childhood. And so I guess as a little backstory to this favorite memory, you just have to know that this is moving past a point of embarrassment. So we are very lucky. We went to Hawaii. My grandfather took us to the military base on Hawaii, to the Officers Club, for a very nice dinner. And it was my mom's birthday. And, I'm sure you guys can relate. Going to dinners with siblings with autism, never know what's going to happen. Usually it's Red Robin. We can keep it really safe. We just get a bunch of people, and that's awesome because we just close Tucker in a booth and he's happy as can be. But we decided a fancy dinner was going to happen. And so Tucker had eaten before, just in case there was nothing at the restaurant that he wanted, but he did have something at the restaurant, and it was great. And he was starving and just scarfed it down, and beautiful white tablecloth, and just please laugh so I don't regret telling this story. And we are, again, it's Mom's birthday, it's the Officers Club, this beautiful setting, beautiful view. Tucker's being great, but he's kind of quiet, and we're like, is Tucker okay? Is everything fine? And he's kind of like making a noise like something's wrong, and we're like, oh my God, he might get sick. And obviously this is not a good memory of Tucker's not feeling well, but so Tucker got sick at this beautiful dinner, and right as he does it, and we all just kind of are sitting there in shock, the waitress comes out with my mom's birthday cake with the candles on it and just stops in her tracks. And we just started laughing. We were like, oh my God, because Tucker, felt immediate relief. And he started trying to take his pants off because his pants were dirty now, and we're like, oh my gosh, no, take him to the bathroom. So Mom and Dad and I just run him to the bathroom, and we all just kind of looked at each other and we're like, oh my, we just started laughing, tears streaming down our face, laughing. We're like, did this really happen? So there's a certain, you can be rigid and humiliated and embarrassed, but that was a memory that popped up for me that I couldn't help but retell.
Thank you so much for sharing.
So, my favorite memory with my brother Daniel was, so when I was 7 and he was 9, he usually gets up really, really early in the morning. So I would be sleeping in really late, and then all of a sudden he would come. I would hear the door slam open, then the light turn on, and then he would come stomping into my room and just lay down on top of me and then fall asleep.
Thank you for sharing.
Let's see, memory. So Amanda had there was a cartoon Pepe Le Pew, and there's Pepe Le Pew, and his love interest was Penelope, which was a black cat with white paint on her back. Anyways, just wanted to set it up for you guys. We got her a Beanie Baby of Penelope the cat from the Warner Brothers store a long time ago, and she was obsessed with it, and she would play with it every day, and she called it Skunk Girl. And Skunk Girl was a part of the family. She was another sibling, and Skunk Girl would wear little outfits, and she would put little makeup, give Skunk Girl a makeover. And Skunk Girl would go everywhere. So we actually purchased the entire stock of Skunk Girl or Penelope Beanie Babies from the store just to have as backup. because she would occasionally leave them places. But we were down to like our last skunk girl. And she would sit in the front and she would hold Skunk Girl out when my mom was driving and Skunk Girl was flying. And I remember she was like watching Skunk Girl fly, and then something happened and she dropped Skunk Girl. And she was like, "Skunk Girl!" And my mom was like, "Remain calm." And she had to like do a U-turn and like she had to park. And Skunk Girl was like somehow like in the road, and my mom had to like kind of prod her. And then we got Skunk Girl. We brought her home. We did it. Stay calm.
I don't know if I can follow that up. So like Chloe was saying actually earlier, for me, just because my brother was a year older than me, a lot of times I felt like I was the older protective sister. So in high school, Jim's pretty quiet unless he knows you, and then he will talk your ear off. So in high school, we ended up being in the same grade. So we entered high school together, and to try to like help him make friends, we tried to figure out like something that we were able to do together, that I could be there, but he could also meet his own friends. So we joined track together because it was the only like co-ed sports team that we could be on. I hated running, but I was like, all right, we got to get him into something. And I don't think he liked running either, but the kids on the team were just like so awesome and like so accepting of him. So he ended up loving it. And I played volleyball very intensely for many years. And by the time I was like my junior year in high school, I was like, I just didn't want to do the running thing anymore. And I asked him, I was like, I'm like, I don't want to run anymore. I'm like, are you gonna do you want to continue on your own, or do you want me to keep going? He's like, I don't need you anymore. And then he ended up joining just a cross-country team on his own after that, and then track was his thing, so he just didn't need me anymore.
Thank you so much for sharing those wonderful memories. My next questions are, what are or were some of the most challenging aspects of being a brother or sister of someone with autism? And on the flip side, what were some of the best or most rewarding aspects? Maria, start with you.
I will say for challenges, for sure. My brother, when he was younger, was much more aggressive than he is now. And I mean, right now he's 6'1", 310 pounds, built like a linebacker, but his heart is definitely bigger. But back then, he was still a pretty big kid. He's my younger brother, but he was always bigger than me. And he was very, he would act out a lot. So I definitely took a bat to the face, a punch to the jaw. Definitely got accidentally stabbed one time in the leg. What else? You can laugh, by the way. I look back and I do laugh at these things, so you're more than welcome to laugh. It's not somber or anything. So those were challenges, definitely. Because you never knew when it was going to happen. It didn't always have to be you specifically upset him. Maybe it was an external variable that upset him, like sensory overload of some sort, and you just happen to be the closest target. So that's kind of what would happen. Luckily, it never was, on a stranger or anything, so I'll take the hit. That's fine. But those were definitely challenges because I was pretty small then, just like I am now. So I definitely learned I can take a punch pretty well, though, that's for sure. And definitely learned don't startle someone with autism, which I should have known that already, but I was trying to teach him a lesson. Anyways, so those were definitely challenges. And like you were saying earlier, too, going out to dinner was probably the most stressful thing. Is my mom just made a face, she knows. So because, again, you never know what's going to happen. And definitely a challenge would be, for an example, we went to a really nice restaurant in Bellevue one time because it was during Christmas. They have that Christmas parade, and the parade goes off. And we did not remember about that at all. We didn't realize the time it would start. And it started when we were walking outside, and we were like, oh, we better hurry back to the car, But it was too late. We were walking by a even fancier restaurant with all glass windows, and I remember he was, trying to escape the street. So he, threw his body on this window. His whole body's like, ah! And, everyone in the restaurant was like, what? We're like, no, don't go in there. No, Daddy, come back, And so it was very chaotic, and life was very stressful for sure, because it was unpredictable. But at the same time, that's also a reward in a way. Like, my brother has never been predictable, but I think the most rewarding aspect of my brother is because, with his autism, his mindset is a little bit younger than that of a 22-year-old, right? So he plays video games like other 22-year-olds. He definitely swears a lot, like your sister does, but he still likes to do, childlike things, and I do too. I'm a kid at heart, so he never got too cool for me, which I really find rewarding, and I really appreciate that. Like, he wants me to take him to the zoo, or he wants to do, like, go to a children's museum, or go to a children's movie that I really want to see too. And so it works out really well. Like, he still wants to hang out with me. We've gone places together, and he never wanted me to go away so he could talk to his friends, So that's been a very much rewarding aspect, the uniqueness of that. So never too cool for family.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
I would sort of touch on the same thing growing up, aggression and them really not knowing, Tucker not knowing how to express what he's feeling, and us not knowing what he's feeling either, and not be able to communicate with him and say what's wrong, and him not be able to tell us what's wrong. And there are certain questions that you can certainly ask, but sometimes it just seems completely random. So to hear, a kid he's now a grown man, scream at a grocery store is very unsettling. And typically in public, people, they're great judges of character. People with autism, you can really see how people sort of look at them, and it's fine to look. I definitely don't judge people for that. And no matter how empathetic and kind you are, if somebody's screaming, that's off-putting and very unsettling. And it's hard just to want to, shoo him out. So memories of a lot of public meltdowns, memories of meltdowns and aggression at home. Even last summer, I think it was, there were many days where I took Tucker to the Alyssa Burnett Center in Bothell, which is the adult life center. They have these great gardening, cooking, all sorts of classes, and we were in a music class. And whatever it was, something just bothered Tucker, and he, I can't remember if he had hit me or the instructor, and so it kind of shook me, but something I was used to, I'm like, okay, it was me, it wasn't someone else. And he seemed to calm down and be all right. And Manuel, who's really great, works at the Alyssa Burnett Center, kind of helped calm Tucker down, and he seemed fine. And usually there are aides there, and on this day there was a parent, there was a mother of a boy who was completely nonverbal and in a wheelchair. And Tucker turned to her and he punched her. And she was, on her arm, and she was so understanding and so kind, but I just could not help but cry. I certainly didn't start crying in the middle of class. Oh my gosh, but I felt so sorry for this woman, and she was so sweet, and I was so mad at Tucker. And Manuel again, kind of rushed over, and he goes, okay, maybe you should just go home. And Tucker was having a fit, but I was just so mad at him. I felt like a little sister, like, why did you do that? I hate you for that. And so you certainly go through a lot of ups and downs. But to bring it to a much more positive note, there have been great memories. He is certainly, like I said, a great judge of character for people who come into our lives and just sort of get to know us. It's, I'm sure, very interesting for me to sit down and tell my boyfriend the first time he'd met my family, like, all right, brother has autism, he's 24 years old, and he just might run through here naked. So when we say don't look, I've also learned that when you tell people don't look, their first inclination is to look. So we say, okay, in our household, when we say don't look, like really just look down. But, you know, there just are wonderful moments where, you know, again, if he might be randomly angry, there are random moments of joy. And it just makes it worth it. He'll start giggling and smiling, and it's very infectious. And you're kind of like, Tucker, you know, why are you laughing? And he kind of looks at me and smiles, and he's got this, you know, mischievous look on his face. But yeah, it's good judge of character. Forgot where I was going. Just great memories, you know. I'll be sitting in a living room, and I mention my boyfriend, and I'll just kind of notice the two of them interacting with one another, and it's not for show. It's not, hey, give me a high five, which is great. That's anytime somebody engages with my brother, I'm the happiest girl alive. But when I see the two of them interacting, and boyfriend wrote him a song, and Tucker likes music and likes to listen to music, and that's really special to me. So kind of seeing people come into your life and just knowing, okay, if they can not only accept this, but love him like I love him, you're here for the long haul. We'll accept you.
Thank you.
So one of the most challenging things with my brother is he throws fits a lot, and he gets out of control, like so out of control. It's really hard to like control him. So he has to go to the hospital a lot, so like some other people can like help him get better. And so what's really sad is for the last 3 years of my birthday, he's been in the hospital. So for the last 3 years, he's been in, for my last 3 birthdays, he's been in the hospital, which was really hard for me. So it was just really, really hard. And so like I'm on like a dance team, and I do a lot of dance, and so my friends there, they really care about me, and they knew it was my birthday, and they knew I was really sad, so they threw me a surprise birthday party, and I was really happy about that. Mm-hmm. And then one of the good ones, one of the some of the best things were so a really good thing, he's really snuggly. Like all the time, he'll just like come up to me and randomly, like without like any like anything happening, he'll just like walk up to me and give me a hug. And he'll just like in the middle of the night sometimes just come into my room and start sleeping with me. Mm-hmm. And like he's always there for me.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, growing up, definitely public tantrums or outbursts were definitely one of the most difficult parts of growing up with Amanda. Being the older sibling, I kind of felt like the third parent in that situation, because they're trying to, you know, let's say my mom's trying to find a bra, and I'm the only other person who can kind of help, you know, Amanda handle being inside of a Target for an hour. So handling that situation was a little difficult. You know, people who are not involved with that situation, observing it, people are going to stare. People are going to say, "What's going on with that person? You know, why? What's happening there?" But they don't understand that, you know, the whole situation. So that was a little bit difficult. And then obviously when she became a teenager, she did go through a goth phase, and Hot Topic was her mecca. And, you know, I'm talking like all black, makeup, this all the time. And she gave all of her Sailor Moon dolls gothic makeovers as well. But that's when her aggression kind of started, and so she would act out physically. Luckily, she never hurt anybody. She would not attack actual people. She would fight people, imaginary characters. And so, does it need to happen inside of this goodwill? No, but it's a way for her to kind of express herself. So that was the difficult part. But now the benefits are, we all have a great sense of humor now. She does impressions of people. I can joke about it now. I'm more patient now. I have more of an understanding for people. I'm okay embarrassing myself in public for sure. Like, piece of cake.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, so probably the most challenging part with Jim, so he doesn't have as many externalizing behaviors. He doesn't act out in public necessarily, but he's kind of shuts down if something were to happen. He's quiet. It's kind of hard to get things out of him. So it's always a question of whether something's going on and he's not telling us. And so it was the uncertainty of if he's okay. A lot of times. And he can also be pretty exhausting. And there's the sibling, yes, my brother's annoying. But it even happens now. He has very elaborate plans for things, whether it's a birthday or just making dinner. Everything has lots of parts and pieces, and he's constantly talking about it and planning for it. So it can be very overwhelming to constantly be hearing all the plans and all the things he's thinking. So it's hard to balance, yes, listening to what he wants to say and, giving him that chance, and also just needing a break sometimes. So I think that could be challenging. And it'll tie in from the challenging to rewarding. But it was extremely difficult for me to come out here. As I mentioned earlier, I felt like his older sister. So coming out here and not be able to protect him and be the person that he went to was really difficult for me. But it's awesome because every time I call my mom now, she says how much he's changed. And I think it's just because I'm not there, things that he's stepping up to be more independent in, and realizing that he doesn't have me in the same way that he did to lean on. But some amazing things have come out of that. He's been able to talk to my mom a lot more and just being more communicative and more fun. He's always a very happy person. He's always smiling. But I think that it allowed him to connect with my other family members because I wasn't there quite as much. And other rewarding things, again, he doesn't communicate a ton. He's fully verbal, but as far as what's going on, he doesn't answer his phone, doesn't text very much. So I love every couple months I'll get a text with tons of emoticons and pictures. Happy birthday is 10 lines long with all the emoticons he could find that were related to my birthday or whatever holiday. So those things are amazing. And then I'll get cards that he probably spent hours in the store shopping for. And he'll draw his own pictures over the ones that are already there, and these amazing notes. So those are just really special because they're big for him to do those things. So it's amazing every time.
Thank you for sharing those special moments with us. My next question is more of a reflection. I'm wondering if you can describe any skills you acquired, insights you've gained, or ways that being a sibling of someone with autism has affected and shaped your life.
I would say for number one, patience. Patience truly is a virtue. That is a saying for a reason. Because, in this world, we're just always so busy trying to force things or go faster, or things need to be now, and just being patient with people is so incredibly important. People expect results all the time, right away. And being with him growing up, I was really young, obviously. I was 7 when he was born. And just growing up with him this whole time, because I've been around him this whole time pretty regularly, my whole life, if not almost daily, most of the time. So patience, but also humility, being okay with being embarrassed and stop worrying about what other people think. And I mean that in a completely respectful way, because there's some people who might say, I don't care what people think, and they'll act out and be inappropriate. That's one thing. Be respectful in the environment that requires you to be a certain way and behave a certain way. But in terms of, worrying about what other people think about my brother, or maybe they think, oh, well, the way he was raised by his parents, it must be that, and he's a brat. Not worrying about what other people think and live in the moment with my brother. And because of that, I've actually become more comfortable in my own skin. Like, I'm a pretty confident person, I feel like. I don't mind embarrassing myself. I'm the first to do it. I don't think anybody can embarrass me. Not even you, Mom. So, like, I'll beat you to the punch, 100%. Like, everything I don't mind, it's out there. That's fine. I embrace it. And so I've definitely learned that through my experiences with him. So I honestly really appreciate that, I was so lucky to have a brother like him to teach me that, because so many people, they never can fully feel like they're being themselves because they are too concerned with what someone might think or how they're judging them. And, and also, like, when you live with someone that has autism, the society tends to label people, like, and that's considered a label, but it's not. It's just something that he lives with, and so when you live with someone and you're around someone so much and you really see them as a human being, it actually allows you to see other people that way, without that stigma of a disability or even a mental illness per se, all sorts of things, not just someone with autism. And so it allows you to just really be yourself and let someone else be themselves with you. You don't have to tippy-toe around it. There's no eggshells you're walking on. Just talking to other people as people, because really we're all just, people are trying to get along in this world and fit in our own unique ways. So he's definitely taught me that. And I really also appreciate watching him just kind of be himself, just go out. And there was a group of guys one time. It was just this random group of all African American black males, and he walked up to them, "Are you guys Who Let the Dogs Out group?" Like, just no filter, and when my stepdad, who's his father, we share the same mom, he had a date over one time to meet us, and she was talking about how she had all these cats, and my brother was like, "Oh, so are you like a crazy cat lady?" And this was 2 years ago, by the way. He was still 20, so, just, you learn a lot from that. Just be yourself, and you'll be fine in this world, so don't think too much about it. So, yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
It was good. I will absolutely have to echo the humility, patience, and a very deep sense of empathy. I sort of touched on it before. You really see in other people how they look at him or treat him or want to engage with him. He just gives a really good read on people, but you yourself learn. I feel like I'm very calm at all times. I know that adding emotion or anger to an already high emotion situation is never a good thing. It never works. So it's always good to just stay calm and listen and think in your head, okay, why is this person behaving this way? Not only with Tucker, it's just taught me in life what is happening, either in their world or, something's going on, why they're behaving this way. There's always a cause, and I need to understand that to better understand them, to better understand this situation we're in, instead of doing or saying something that you might regret. So, staying calm, patience, certainly a virtue. With a sibling with autism, and the humility as well. I think, you guys heard the story I told. It was just sometimes you have to laugh at life, and you can't be humiliated and horrified. You just have to let things go and understand that you can't be in control of every situation, and have people sort of say like, "Oh, you're very go with the flow," and it's like, well, kind of grew up. You can't have these set in stone plans. You either have to have a lot of prep time for it, there wasn't a lot of room for spontaneity. So, yeah, I would say be and go with the flow, empathy, patience, humility, just to touch on a few.
Thank you.
So, first of all, this is just something, he's taught me how to be helpful around people. He's really taught me how to have empathy for people, no matter who they are or what happens, just like no matter what happens, just be there for people. And he's also taught me he's just taught me how to be a good person, because when you have a brother with autism, well, you really don't really like, it's just like really hard to like understand people. He's taught me how to like understand people with like different disabilities, and just be able to be around people, like, and be more helpful to people.
Thank you so much.
Sounds really good. Kind of like what you were saying, understanding people. Growing up with Amanda has kind of given me really great observational skills and listening skills. It was kind of like detective training, because when she was having a tantrum, she was very emotional. She couldn't communicate what she was upset about. And so it was like, okay, what was she eating for lunch? What was going on here? What's she trying to say? What movie is she watching? What's that scene she's playing? So kind of understanding people has been a great skill that I've received from that. Just understanding there are different ways to do things. Growing up with her was kind of like an improv show. You don't know what scene you're going to be in. You don't know what's going to happen. Like you guys, like you ladies said, you have to be very flexible. So I'm very flexible with that. Yeah.
Thank you.
I would agree with everything that everyone has said thus far, and it's helped me see people's strengths and seeing that as like the first thing I see in people is like the positive and the strengths in people versus what they're labeled with, what behaviors they're exhibiting, and just seeing that in people. And quite obviously, he's the one that drove me to the career that I want, that I'm on my way to being in. I have just always been interested in, seeing him grow and the changes he'd make with different adjustments. So I definitely want to do that in the future is, if these individuals, kids get the supports that they need, the progress that they make is amazing. So it just seeing how much he has grown in such little increments, I definitely want to be able to provide that for other families too.
Thank you all for your insights. What would you like or have liked your parents to know? And given that many of the people in the audience tonight may be parents, do you have any advice for our audience?
Mom. Just kidding. No, not directly at you. I would say definitely growing up, like he was saying earlier, you honestly do become a third parent. Even at a young age, I remember having like my first mental breakdown at age 10 in the grocery store. Like I'll never forget that for sure. So, you do take on a lot of extra responsibilities, and with my brother, I wanted to not just be his sister, but I wanted to like teach him, but also like when discipline was necessary, just like any child, I wanted to figure out ways on how to like just help with behaviors, and try to work with that. And so maybe as a parent, understanding the responsibility that becomes on the sibling as well as a parent, just being aware of that maybe. Also, definitely one thing I would say is don't forget about the other sibling, because I remember when my brother like hit me in the face with a bat, and luckily didn't break my nose, but definitely stuff happened. I, went to my stepfather at the time, who is my brother's father. And it was always, well, you're the responsible one. You shouldn't let him have a bat. I'm like, okay, well, for 2 seconds, I took my eyes off the kid. He's somewhere else, I mean, he just, to this day, he darts. You can lose him. You turn for a second, he's lost, And so, I'd always get the blame for everything, And I think it's important. Don't forget to, like, validate your siblings' feelings or their concerns. Like, maybe check in with them, too, make sure everything's going okay with them. Because kids, siblings will internalize a lot of those responsibilities too that maybe the parents aren't realizing. And again, like I said, just reiterating that it's important to validate their feelings as well, and not just say, well, you're the normal one, or in psychology, the typically developed one. I mean, parents don't actually say that, so they say something else. But so just don't forget to hear them out too, and don't forget about them. So yeah.
Thank you.
I would agree with that. Sort of the feelings of unfairness would certainly stem from lectures like, well, stop mothering him. That's not your job. That's not your job. And my parents got divorced when I was 18, and we were really forced to take a good hard look into Tucker's future. And there's been a lot of talk with, where is he going to live and who's going to take care of him? And that's going to be me. And so, when I speak with my parents, it's like, all right, we're on the same team here, and there's a good chance that I'm going to spend more of a lifetime with him than you will. So let, my concerns be valid. Let my feelings be valid. I'd like to share with you, what I think. I don't want you just to say, all right, we're doing this, and this is the plan, and I haven't really consulted with anyone else about it, but yeah, this will be great. This will be great. And I've kind of got questions like, well, what, this doesn't really make sense to me quite yet. What about this, this, and this? And, oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. And it's sort of like, no, these are really valid things that I'm wondering, and I need you to communicate with me now, because we all want what's best for the sibling. Yeah.
Thank you.
So basically, when a few years ago, we took my brother Daniel to Hawaii, and so all we were basically doing was, instead of having fun and enjoying ourselves, we were running around chasing him, trying to make sure he's safe. And so this year, we had to go without him because he wasn't able to do it. And that was a really, really hard decision for us. We were really sad that we had to go without him, but we were able to enjoy ourselves and actually be happy. But we really missed him too. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's good to take those breaks and stuff. If I could talk, what would I tell my parents, knowing what I know now? Have a plan for adulthood that allows independence as much as their spectrum allows, because it sets them up for success. It sets you up for success, and then your family as well. Because like you were saying, the siblings typically do take on the responsibility later in adulthood, or at least making certain calls and decisions when parents aren't able to do so. So just having that plan in action, communicating that with each other, communicate that with the family so everyone's on the same page, and then, mention that to a caseworker or social worker so that they can kind of set you on a plan or a path of action so that you can set things up. Because there are so many resources available that people aren't aware of.
Thank you.
I think I would like to say to my parents that I think they did a pretty good job, although I did take on a lot of responsibilities and was like a third parent. I think they did a really good job at balancing like things that I wanted at that time, and also just being a part of a family with a sibling with autism. I was still able to do everything that I wanted to do. So just keeping in mind, like, I know I've heard other siblings say too that they, kind of get the short end of the stick when it comes to like attention and just being able to do what you want to do versus what your sibling needs at the time. But I think my parents did a really good job of balancing that. And then just for advice, I just take it one day at a time. Right now I'm working at, I'm doing a practicum site at ICANN, and we have a lot of parents that come in to get evaluations for their 4 and 5 year olds, asking about what are they going to look like when they're 20, what are they going to look like when they're 30, and it's just, you don't know. Like, they told my parents that my brother wouldn't graduate from high school, which he has, and he's considering taking college courses. So it's just, you don't know until they're given the supports and the opportunities to see what they can do. So just one day at a time, and just worry about the current situation. And there is something to say about planning for the future too, but just keep your mind on the now so you can enjoy what you have.
Thank you so much for all of your advice. Our last question of the night before we get to Q&A is, if the whole world were listening, what would you say about your brother or sister with autism?
Well, I'll say, first of all, just in general, not just in, the name of my brother, but also I think everyone's siblings at this table is, we're all kind of brought up with preconceived biases, and we make assumptions about situations. And I think if I were to be talking to the world right now, I would say, if you see a child throwing a fit, or, and it's a little more extreme than you're used to seeing, just stop and think for a moment. Maybe there's a story behind that it's not just some child is a brat, or the parents don't know how to raise their child, and because, man, the parents are working their butts off, like, not just the siblings. I've watched my mom and, my stepdad do a lot goes into raising a child with autism, a lot, and it can be draining. And so just maybe look through a lens of understanding, and just try to be, see it without a bias, without an assumption, and just, because my brother, he may look intimidating, all 6 foot, 310 pounds of him, but he's actually really friendly. So just a reminder, nothing wrong with just saying hello. So yeah.
I would agree with that. Just a easy hi and engagement just really means the world. That's wonderful to see. And you mentioned it earlier, the quote, I hear also Tammy Mitchel of the Alyssa Burnett Center says it all the time: when you've met one person with autism, you've just met one person with autism. Just why this is such an amazing experience, hearing of all these siblings and how different all of our siblings are, but how we have sort of gone through the same set of emotions and dealt with very similar things. So, my ask would be to engage with them, but then again, someone on the spectrum might not like that. So just understand and keep an open mind. I would also say thank you, because I truly, people treat us with just overwhelming kindness and understanding, and it's amazing to see, and also to see people who dedicate their lives to, helping families like ours and bringing more awareness to the world. It really is astounding and very overwhelming, and makes me really happy. So, just a thank you, and engage with them. Don't be intimidated. They might not give you the validation. I know Tucker won't. Tucker's not gonna, give you a hug and attach to you. And it's like when you want to hold a baby and you want it to love you, and you're like, come on, or he's probably not gonna reciprocate those feelings of love, but they mean something and they're appreciated.
So I love him, and he's just a great brother, and I'm really happy I have a brother like him because it's just amazing how he's just like always there for me and always he's just so nice to people sometimes. Sometimes. And he's just like on the inside he's just like a great loving person. But he just gets angry sometimes, but I just love him like no matter what he does.
Thank you.
I would say Amanda is funny, smart, caring, and more receptive and, bless you, more receptive and understanding than you can ever imagine. She's got a great sense of humor, and she will have conversations with anyone about all of the Sailor Moon Scouts and the Small Soldiers Universe and Gorgonites. And she is great at organizing her closet, fashion, illustrating, all that kind of stuff. She's very talented.
Thank you so much.
My biggest thing is just that he can't be underestimated, and I think that's true for a lot of individuals in general, but individuals with autism is that they have something to contribute and something amazing, so just recognize that and help foster that.
Thank you all. All right, we're going to open up for Q&A from the audience, including the audience at home. Yes.
Did you guys feel, is this on? Okay. Did you guys feel pressure to behave up to your potential? I mean, did you have space to melt down yourselves or you know?
We can open that up to the whole
I,
panel.
I felt the need to kind of compensate, especially if my sister was throwing a tantrum in public. I felt like I needed to really overperform and like, thanks for having us over to your house for dinner. Sorry, my sister, screaming, you know, like it's a skill set that I've really kind of picked up, was overcompensating and really being the most responsible person.
So it's a great question, and I would sort of echo the same. Absolutely. You know, you watch your parents and they're amazing. You kind of look at them and you're like, I don't know how you do it. And you feel sympathy and you just want to help them even at a young age, you know, and I look at someone like Chloe and she's pretty amazing. You know, you can just, she's a great gal. All of you are.
Thank you.
Not gals, guys too. But I look back and I'm thankful for it. You know, I learned to control my emotions at a young age and pick up on different social cues and read situations differently. And I'm very thankful for those traits now, though there were certainly feelings of frustration and, you know, wanting attention and wanting, you know, sort of that care, not care, that sounds a little deeper than it meant, but that they do.
All right, next question.
So I have a 7-year-old son who's autistic, and his little sister is 4, and she's neurotypical. And so I am always curious. I haven't told my son he's autistic, and I haven't told my daughter that her brother is autistic. And I feel like even though she's younger, she'll be ready to have that conversation before he is and wrap her head around that. And so I wondered, what are your experiences as a child? At what point did you notice your sibling was different, or how did your parents tell you that, and when did they give it a name?
So Tara and I had talked about this a little bit last week, actually. Is that I don't remember actually ever finding out that like my brother had also my autism. I don't remember the day. I don't really remember much about it, just because I think at the time, like, I guess the label just really didn't matter. Like, this is my brother. This is what he likes. This is what he doesn't like. It honestly didn't matter, and I don't know when I even knew what autism was versus like being typically developing. I couldn't even tell you. So I guess I think maybe, I mean, other people probably have different experiences, but I think parents worry about that, but I don't think it matters as much as you might think it does.
I was actually present. Oh, go ahead. Well, I was present when she was diagnosed formally, and that was in the early 90s. And so that kind of gave me an understanding of it. And then my parents actually received training on, coping mechanisms, how to communicate and how to handle certain situations. And I witnessed that as well. And then I have a sense that she kind of understood her situation when she was maybe in her teens, and that's when she would start to act out because she was frustrated, she couldn't communicate in certain things, and she kind of noticed what was going on in those years.
So basically, my brother was adopted, and so he had his adoption, official adoption when I was a newborn. So I didn't really learn what autism was till I was 5, and then I just all of a sudden my brother is just my brother's acting weird, and then I'm like, Mom, why is my brother acting so weird? And she's like, we'll have this conversation later. And I'm like, okay.
I don't know if it's a helpful answer, but like Rachel, I just don't remember having a conversation. Your brother has autism and you're a sister, and here's how you handle it. So I would maybe don't be afraid to take a little pressure off yourself. She probably knows that he's different, and that's just sort of how I was raised. And I remember telling people in elementary school, he would come through with his aid. I'm like, that's my brother. He has autism. Did I have any idea what that meant? No, but I was aware of it, and he was different. And it's just how we grew up, and that dynamic, if they're 4 and 7, has probably already been set. So, I would just don't go too hard on yourself on having the big conversation, because they're probably steps ahead.
That's true. But they're already going to know what's going on. They'll be able to communicate that.
Plus, as a sibling, I feel like I didn't know anything else. I only knew my brother. I didn't have any other siblings that I could, relate that to, except for a stepsister who lived in another state, and I didn't know her that well, really, enough to compare it. So I just knew my brother was oddly energetic, but I just thought that was a boy. So, it just, to me, was always normal. So I never, and I was 7 when we found out, or 8, 9.
Yeah,
Like-
well, actually, he was developmentally delayed was his first.
Oh, okay,
It wasn't
okay.
until he was a little older
Oh,
that
okay.
they gave it the PDD-NOS.
Okay.
And you'll certainly go to your first sleepover as a kid and be like, this house is quiet. Can I go home?
You're not watching
Dorms,
Soft
first
Soldiers?
night in the dorm, you're like, oh my God, what is that silence?
It's true.
Other questions?
So my son is 5 and just got diagnosed, and he's very high functioning, but I also have a 2.5-year-old, and I'm just kind of trying to manage the violent outbursts, and I'm just kind of looking at, how did you manage as a sibling with these outbursts? I know some of you maybe got hurt more than others, and what do you wish your parents would have done in those situations? Do you wish that they would have taken you away to a different room, or do you feel like you are glad that you worked through it with them? My daughter takes 2 hours to get to sleep because she's so scared, and so she's living with a bully in the house.
What my mom does is she'll when he gets super crazy and out of control, we have, if you go up our hill and then go that way a bit, there's a farm with horses, and he enjoys seeing that. So if he's really out of control, we'll take him on a walk somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, speaking from my experience too, you know, my brother definitely had violent outbursts. I will say, looking back, I'm glad I wasn't shielded from it. However, I wasn't like afraid of him either, or feel bullied. So that's a tough one. But like I said, yeah, I'm glad I was more exposed to it, because the more I was exposed to it, I feel like it wasn't as frightening, right? Like at first, it's almost like you hear a loud boom, and you're like, oh, what was that? But then after again and again, you know, you get used to that. So then it's not scary anymore, and then, you know, they'll probably see their sibling as, okay, well, that's just one of they're upset again, you know, but that doesn't mean anything on me. I remember at one point, my thing was to sit on him. So, you know, that worked. But everyone has a different method. You know, and I'm way smaller than him, but he would definitely listen to me because of tone. But yeah, I think, you know, the more, you said your daughter, right, is afraid. Okay. The more that, you know, maybe does see it and sees that everything's going to be okay in the end, then she won't be as afraid, you know, so.
Also, maybe communicating with her why he's having those outbursts. He's trying to express an emotion, that he's frustrated because he can't express it where people can understand it. And so when I learned that growing up, it definitely helped me kind of understand why Amanda was throwing a tantrum and stuff like that. Now, as an adult, when she does have her physical aggression, in a public place most of the time, and she's, you know, fighting things, I'll say, hey, use your words. What's upsetting you? And so learning techniques on how to engage them in conversation, and that was helpful for me.
Can't imagine how difficult that must be, and just want to say you're doing a great job. That must be unbelievably hard. When I remember Tucker's violent outbursts much more when we were children. So I will tell you, relief is on the horizon as they sort of develop in communication. It will get much better. I remember reacting in frustration and anger, and I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of fear. And that's why, you know, it must just be unbelievably hard. And to touch on what Devin said, understanding helps. But then you also do have to understand that there's still the brother-sister dynamic. Like if Tucker used to hit me, I'd want to fight back. And that's kind of normal for siblings. And, you know, I'm not a parent. I don't know what that's like and how to regulate that. But understanding will certainly help. Communicating with them both, and again, tactics, if Tucker's just sort of in like a blind rage, just bringing him down to presence and eye contact, and just sort of like, hey, it's okay. Like, what's going on? You know, what's going through your mind? What can I do to help you through this? I can't imagine as a 2.5-year-old being like, you know, why do I have to take the brunt of this? Why do I have to be patient? I'm the younger sibling. But just know, like I said before, their communication will evolve and it'll get better, and you're doing a wonderful job.
Yes. And she's going to learn so many valuable skills from this experience.
Other questions?
I have a brother with Asperger's syndrome, and it's really hard to, you know, just remain patient with him. Was it always easy for you to do it, or was it sometimes hard?
It was sometimes hard. No, we feel for you, girl. It's not easy, but good for you for being patient. You're awesome for that, and it's tough, and you're a good sister, and you're helping them, and they love you, and it's not an easy thing, but patience is a virtue.
I will say too, don't forget to give yourself some credit, because it's totally okay if you lose it sometimes. I remember I could only be patient so often, and then he would just push my buttons to my breaking point, and I would be like screaming, and so, being patient is important, but of course, like, we can't just be patient 24/7. So if you get upset, need to scream in a pillow, go for it, because
It's okay.
it's self-therapy,
Yeah, it's okay for you to act out too if you're upset about stuff. Having a sibling with autism is kind of like a superpower because, like what we've all been talking about, you have an awareness, you understand people. It can be difficult, but it's a good thing too.
I'm not alone. Oh my God.
That's a good
Yes, it works sometimes, I tell you. That's awesome.
Other questions?
Okay, my son, he didn't get diagnosed with autism until he was 26, but he was nonverbal when he was 2 years old, so we did a lot of speech therapy, intensive speech therapy, 10 years worth of it. So my 2 younger children spent a lot of time in the car, the medical appointments, speech therapy, observation rooms and waiting rooms. And I think my daughter, from time she was conceived until she's 5 years old, has that been an effect? Do you remember all those, going to appointments and having to play? I mean, the neurologist was the worst because there were no toys there.
Yeah.
And I think my daughter got imprinted by SLPs because now she's she's getting she's going to get a master's in speech language pathology. But, do you guys remember those times, all those trips and such?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, my brother, he's always going to the hospital, and he has appointments and a bunch of other things, and so it's pretty hard for me to I have two brothers. One's like a baby, and then the other one's 7, and then we have Daniel and me, and we have to load them all in the car, go there, get them all out, get them back in, go back home, and then go pick him up, and then bring him back home, and it's just pretty confusing.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
It's just like, are you a good reader? Because that's my daughter did a lot of reading, or reading to her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember a place called Northwest Behavioral Associates, and I remember going there a lot. And it was actually kind of cool for me because my brother wasn't all that interested in hanging out with me, and there were a lot of kids there that were really interested in hanging out with me and talking to me, and it was just sort of fascinating how they wanted to engage and how different they were. And that's even true now. If I go to the Alyssa Burnett Center, there's just this vast spectrum of kids there, and they're all wild and fun. And there was one, I cannot remember his name, but he was obviously higher functioning, and he just kind of looks me up and down, and he goes, "Who are you?" And I was like, I'm Kate, I'm Tucker's sister. And he goes, "So you're neuronormal?" I was like, "Sure, yeah." And he goes, "Well, when's your birthday? When were you born?" I was like, "September 12th. And he goes, "What year?" And I tell him the year. He goes, "So you just turned 22, just immediately." And I was like, "Yeah." And he's playing Connect 4. And he just wipes the floor with me in Connect 4, kicks my butt. And he was amazing. And it's just so cool, because sometimes I'm like the annoying little sister, like, "Tucker, hang out with me. Let's do this. Let's go on a bike ride." And he's just like, "Ugh, get out of here." And it's those can be fun. I don't know, sitting in a doctor's office, if there are many other kids, but that's what was fun. So don't feel too bad for them. They aren't bad memories.
That's true. I remember going to all those appointments on a Saturday, loading in the minivan. Everyone get in the van, and then, skunk girl, and then we go to an appointment, and, either we're in the car, or my other sibling were in the car, or we go in the, we entertained ourselves. And now, as an adult, I know the ins and outs of DSHS. I know all the acronyms. I got it all down. So
We're all medical doctors.
yeah, I'm an uncertified social worker.
I would say I don't know if it was location or the time, but we didn't have there wasn't ABA, there wasn't, he didn't see a speech language pathologist or anything. But I do remember he had some tutor or something when we were younger, but I don't know, again, it was kind of fun. My mom would drop him off and then we would go out to lunch with my brother and I and my mom. I don't know, it was fun.
Yeah.
I don't know.
His first community speech is sign language.
Oh, very cool.
Any other questions?
So, first of all, thank you for your honesty and for being here and sharing stories about your loved one. So inspirational and thoughtful, and clearly you care so much about this person. Your sibling, your brothers and your sister. I think you did a really beautiful job of explaining how hard life can be for someone with autism too. We talk about our challenges, and I'm a parent, your siblings, there's challenges, and there's incredible strengths and joys and wonderful things we get from it. But the people that have autism, life's hard. It can be very difficult. So thank you for bringing that to life too. And I guess I just want to, it's not really, I think if we have a second, maybe somebody, if you did have a magic wand to make life, I want to say easier, but maybe more accommodating and welcoming for someone with autism, what would you do? I'm talking anything. What would you do? And I guess we should all think about that because we all have some responsibility in making life a little easier for people with autism too, because it's hard to be in this world. Yeah.
I feel just societally, each person has their place, and people with autism have their place too. They can be successful. There are jobs and careers that they can be successful in if people were more understanding about, their training or just understanding how they are and aren't going to interact with people. Just almost treated like a normal person, like they have strengths and weaknesses just like everyone else, and just there is a place for them to be successful and happy like the rest of us.
They all want to contribute in whatever way they can. They want independence and exactly what you said, the ability to talk to them normally, not babying them, because they are very receptive.
I would make it so it's easy, like he said, it's easier to be able to talk to him because he doesn't speak very well. So it's he'll say blah, but it means something to him, but we don't know what it means. And so I would want the ability to know what he's saying.
That's awesome.
I would sort of look around and everybody sort of navigates their way through life and you sort of land on the same thing. And what is a life without a purpose? And, it's the same for people with autism. They don't just exist their way through life. They are capable, and there are things they can do within, call them, limits, I guess, of where they are on the spectrum, but they have a lot to add to the world. And I see my brother, and I kind of mentioned before, he's happiest when he's engaged and doing things, and he has a structure, and he's going to classes. He's not happy when he's sitting at home, and even though he likes his routine, a little push is okay. It's good for them.
Yeah, I would kind of touch on that as well, because I find that in life what kind of keeps us all moving is if you find something you're really passionate about, you find self-worth in that. And so one thing I always wished for my brother was that he could kind of follow his own passions as well. Although, the transitional program is limited in what he's allowed to do, he's definitely higher functioning. So I know there is things he could do that he would rather be doing. And if I could find a way to position him in that, that would be what I would do with my magic wand, because for example, he loves video games. He's really social. He's great at actually learning and then, talking to people about that. So he wants to work at GameStop. If I could get him just a greeter job where he just is greeting people and talking to people about video games, I would definitely grant him that, because it's definitely more beneficial, and he would be a happier person, I think, if he was doing that than the job he's doing now, which I'm not saying he's has a horrible job right now, but, you know, I would rather him be able to do something he really wants to do, just like we all get to do, you know, so, yeah.
We're a little bit pressed for time, but I wanted to open up any questions from the remote sites. Any final thoughts? All right, all righty. Okay, well, thank you all again, and thank you to our panelists for being willing to share their stories tonight.